Matt George is joining us live from the ABC 10 studios. Young Matthew, sir, how are you?
I am trying to make sure I can keep my head on my shoulders at this point, but I'm having a good time.
I was about to say, you look a little frazzled.
You do look frazzled.
What gave it away?
It's the hair.
Yeah, it's because Golden One Center is a freaking wind tunnel right now, but it's nice. It's beautiful outside.
Well, we're glad that you're here. Appreciate you rushing out of there to carve out a few minutes for us. Let's start with Harrison Barnes. That obviously was a big topic of conversation at practice today. What do we know about HB?
Yeah, from everything, all indications that we got, it's a complete non-issue. In fact, they were pretty nonchalant with the way they told us. It's just like, yeah, Harrison Barnes tweaked his ankle at the end of yesterday's practice. He finished out practice. It was completely like a coach and team decision to hold him out for precautionary reasons in practice today. That he's expected to be fully ready and available for Saturday's game. Leave it at that. So, I mean, if our injury report can be delivered as nonchalant or like as much of a non-issue as possible, that's how it was presented to us.
I wonder, do you know why they even brought it up? Is it because I brought up a situation where I don't know how much of the practice that you guys see, and maybe it's a situation where the media is there and they look around, they don't see Harrison Barnes, and they start asking questions. Is that the reason why you even brought it up, if it's really a non-issue?
Yeah, I think that's the exact reason right there. Is we walk in, we start looking around. After a while, we notice, hey, HB's not here, someone's missing. Then alarm bells start going off in our head. So I think they wanted to get out in front of that and just let us know. So that's all I would really put into it too.
Okay, you excited for the weekend?
Hell yeah! Oh my God, I'm in like staring at a clock, just watching each tick go by as slow as possible. But Saturday is also going to be just a nuts day. Like we have the game on ABC 10. So after the game is over, we have to run, and we're doing like our live post-game show. Myself and Kevin John are doing it probably somewhere from the concourse. Still haven't gotten that worked out. It's kind of an important detail. But we're doing a show right afterwards. And then of course the typical post-game duties plus the game itself, the build up to it. ABC's going all out with our coverage for it. So it's going to be a wonderful, it's like wonderful chaos. Like it's going to be chaotic in every way. It's one of those things that you dread while you're preparing for it because it's so big, but when you get to the day of, it's like Christmas and you just want to soak in every single moment. So it's what I've dreamed about doing in my professional career and as a Kings fan for 16, nearly 17 years. And we're so close to it. Just that last little bit of patience being squeezed out of Kings fans is being felt. That's for sure.
Matt, did you, it's probably a weird question, but did you ever think we'd get here as Kings fans? Like
we did it, guys. We did it.
We did it, Matt.
We all work together. Hey, but in some way, like I know people say that with kind of like tongue in cheek, but in reality, like this city did do it and this fan base did do it to stick around for as long as they did, to keep the team here, to get that arena built, to continue to support in that arena, and to show patience for an organization that at times, flat out, if we're being honest, didn't deserve it. Like there were stretches of time that the Sacramento Kings organization, with its current ownership group and some people that are still there as part of the organization today, did not deserve the support that they got from Sacramento Kings fans. I don't know if they took it for granted or whatever. Regardless, we've all gotten past that. So Sacramento Kings fans in a lot of ways did do it, did get here and earn this opportunity, even though they've been deserving of it for years upon years upon years. But I don't think it's truly going to set in, KC, until like I have this image in my head of Slamson on a ladder with the Pirates of the Caribbean theme playing. He's got sparklers in his hand where he's conducting the crowd, which is one of his famous playoff intros. I think that was like 2001 or 2002 or something like that. I'm sure they're going to be a little more high tech and a little more modern in 2023. But once that intro hits and we feel the energy and right before basketball is being played, I think that's when it's really going to seek in. Or maybe I'm arriving to the arena for 5:30 tip. I'm going to be there at like 10 just to soak everything in and to be there in time. So it's necessary. Trust me, for the stuff we're doing, it's necessary. But we're going to be out there all day.
On stretches. Ain't that what happens like in that green area? You know, the old folks, they be doing stretches in the morning.
Matt
George
out there, downward dog.
Hey, they've done some yoga classes out there if the sun hits right.
On the bench. Like, I can't believe we're here.
No, they got that green grass out there. Just going to get some stretches in, play some massive Jenga. I'll be fine.
Massive cornhole, ain't that the game?
Yeah, cornhole and Jenga. They got it all out there.
Well, that'll be fun for sure. What do you think of this matchup? There has been a great deal of discussion over the last few days because that's all we've had the ability to do is just talk about the Sacramento Kings versus the Golden State Warriors. And we were talking less about this series a moment ago and more about the Western Conference and teams that could potentially win an NBA championship. And the thing with the Warriors is, and it's tough to say this because it's the Kings' first round matchup, but I have to see them lose to believe that they can't win a championship. How do you feel about this Warriors team against this Sacramento Kings team?
What I need to see is the Warriors throw a championship punch at Sacramento and for them to either take it on the chin and bounce right back or dodge it. And I believe what gives me the most confidence in the Sacramento Kings is I believe the Kings can beat the Golden State Warriors with their own game. Because the Warriors, maybe in the final 2 minutes, the Warriors defensively can turn it up and shut the Sacramento Kings down. And in the last 2 minutes of a close game, even with the Kings having the clutch player of the year, I think that's where the Golden State Warriors really, truly have the advantage because they've been there and done that so many times. That stretch of the game is where they've won so many championships over the last 6 years. But to me, if the Sacramento Kings can outscore the Golden State Warriors, they can. And the Warriors defense, even though it's like 4 or 5 places better than the Sacramento Kings in terms of points per game allowed, it's the difference of like a point to maybe barely over a point per game. Like in reality, the Warriors defense is not significantly better than the Sacramento Kings defense. And anybody who paints it out to be is lying to themselves. The Golden State Warriors are going to try and outscore you. Well, the Sacramento Kings have the historically best offense the NBA has ever seen. Now, hopefully that carries into the playoffs. I expect there to be some kind of drop-off at least at some time. But if the Sacramento Kings can outstore and withstand those scoring explosions from the Warriors, I get put, for example, even though it was against the resting Portland Trailblazers, the Golden State Warriors put up a 55-point quarter, but the Sacramento Kings also had a 43-point first quarter in Denver. If the Golden State Warriors can put up a 40-point quarter on the Sacramento Kings and the Kings are still within striking distance because they scored 31 or 32, like that's how I think this team can stay around and then go on their own run, their own explosion, and then take the lead right back. So I look at this matchup. I think the Warriors deserve to be the favorites. I think they have a lot of advantages, especially in the realm of experience. But the Sacramento Kings can beat the Warriors at their own game on the offensive end. And the Kings roster as a whole has more offensive depth and more offensive weapons that the Golden State Warriors have to worry about than the Kings have to worry about the Warrior weapons, with the exception of course, the guy wearing number 30.
The weapon.
The super weapon.
In that second game, the Warriors in the second quarter had a 50-point quarter on the Kings. That was crazy.
Yep.
They gave 89 in the first half.
Oh, yes. Everybody
quarter.
had jokes for that one.
Right,
Everybody had jokes for that
and the
one.
Kings made it a game.
And made it a game. And that's what I was going to say. One of the things, I think this holds true for both teams in here because they both aren't very good on the defensive end. And particularly with the Golden State Warriors, they're not really that good defending the three. Don't panic to a 10-0 run or, get overconfident if you make a 10-0 run. Like you're going to get an opportunity to get back into this game if you just stay true with what you try to do on the offense and stay focused on what you got to do on the offense. And I think that's one of the things that we saw earlier in both of the matchups with the Kings that we didn't know it yet, but the Kings just keep going. Like they're going to keep scoring no matter what. They're going to keep scoring. So I think that's going to be one of their biggest strengths in this series is the fact that Golden State, even if they do have a little run, usually they get on a run and they can hide from teams. I don't think they'll be able to hide from the Kings because the Kings just keep scoring. They don't stop. It don't matter if you're up 20. I think they were up 26. They were down 26 at one point in that game against Golden State. And late in the third quarter, still came back to make it a 4-point game. They're going to keep scoring, and they're always going to be able to keep pace with the Golden State Warriors at the very least.
For the better part of a decade, the Warriors have had an incredibly demoralizing ability to let a team work their ass off for 2 to 3 quarters to build a 11, 12, 13-point lead, and then the Warriors erase it in 4 minutes. Like Golden State has had that ability and have done that against so many different opponents. Regular season, postseason does not matter. Mike Brown has brought an element of that from Golden State to Sacramento. To the amount of times the Sacramento Kings closed gaps quickly, even within the span of a quarter. Like think back to when the Kings and Warriors played in Sacramento most recently here, right? Fox, Sabonis, Herter don't play. The second string in that game is essentially a majority of third stringers, guys that we're probably not going to see play in the playoffs. The Kings came back from double digits 2 different times in that game. In the second quarter, they were down by 20 or 17. They got it down to 1. In the third quarter, early on in the third quarter, the Warriors built that lead up to 20. The Sacramento Kings got it back to single digits 9, and it was the third unit that did that both times. So that's just an example of that unit doing it. Imagine if De'Aaron Fox is leading that charge or Malik Monk is leading that charge off the bench. The Kings have erased deficits so many times to where that's why I'm saying they can withstand that. Steph might have 12 unanswered. A 12-0 run where he hits 4 threes in the span of 45 seconds, and suddenly the Golden State Warriors stretch a 3-point lead into a 15. The Kings can erase that 15, and let's say it's midway through the second quarter. By halftime, the Kings could be within 4, and then they can go into the locker room feeling some confidence, and then the third quarter has been their quarter this season. The Kings can beat the Warriors at their own game. They just have to do it. They just have to make shots. That's why, continuing with the term or cliche that we've been using really since the All-Star break, the Kings still are very much in control of their destiny. If the Kings offense hits the shots and scores at the rate that they've been capable of and showed all off-season, or rather regular season long, they're going to be a tough out for anybody, even the defending champs.
Yeah. Steelo and KC on KIFM West Sacramento 98.5 FM, KRX QHD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320. Always live on the free Odyssey app, available on whatever your operating system is, on an iPhone, on Android, mobile phone, tablets, whatever it may be. You can watch the show on Twitch, on YouTube as well. Matt, with what you just said right there about the offense, you believe that to be the case? They're going to be a tough out. Can I add, regardless of what they do defensively, if everything hits the way that you just laid out on the offensive end, regardless of what happens on the defensive end, you think they're still a tough out?
I do, without hesitation, because I think the Sacramento Kings defense is not bad enough to negate everything that they've done offensively. In fact, I'll turn it around. The Kings offense, and I gave you numbers last time I was on with you, the Kings offense has been so good, it's taken the best defenses in the Western Conference and made them the worst. And again, a number I'll throw out just as an example of that. Phoenix Suns, best offense in the West in terms of points per game allowed. 4th place in the NBA. I think they average 111 points per game allowed or something like that. The Kings put up 122 points per game on them this season, which would have made them 29th. Like, the Kings offense is good enough to negate any defense that a team brings to the table. And then defensively, Sacramento's defense is not so horrible, especially their fourth quarter defense. It's not so horrible that it's going to negate what the Kings do. Now, if the Kings need to string together stops to get themselves back into a game, that's where you're concerned. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're down 8 with 3 minutes left. And essentially you have to tell yourself, we have maybe 1 or 2 more buckets we can give them, or we can allow them to score. Other than that, we have to be perfect to close out this game. The Kings need to try and avoid those circumstances as much as possible, because the Warriors will get those 2 buckets on their first possessions and just take the air out of the building if they can. So you want to try and avoid those. But if the Kings can keep it close, if the Kings can build a lead, and again, withstand those mid-game pushes that the Warriors always make, whether it's right out of the gate, ending a quarter, starting a half, does not matter. The Warriors make those explosive pushes at times and just erase all the positivity or add on to something in a hurry and just suddenly turn a close game into a blowout really, really quickly. The Kings can withstand that. They just have to do it.
I agree 100%. Another aspect of this game that I've talked about a little bit, I want to get your opinion on it, is the matchup for the Kings against the Warriors. I think is pretty favorable, in a number of different respects. And one of the first things that I look at is the style of play. We talked about for months how, when things slow down in the playoffs, can the Kings score? I don't think this pace is going to slow down. This is going to be played at Kings basketball pace, the pace they've played at all year long. And I continue to say, and I'm staying with it, if the Kings are allowed to score at the clip that they scored all year long, I think they're winning this series. I know the Warriors are the Warriors. I know they got Steph or whatever. I don't know if they have enough offense. If the Kings are putting up 120, I don't know if the Warriors this year have enough to put up 125 a night over the Kings. I don't know. Wiggins, you don't know. He was a big contributor last year. He averaged like 19 points in the playoffs last year or in the finals. We don't know what you're getting from Wiggins. Klay Thompson is playing a little better than he has been, but that's been a little up and down, right? He was bad to start the season, really, really good in the middle of the season. Last 3 or 4 weeks, he hasn't been as good as he was earlier in the year. So you got to see what you're getting with that. You never really know what you're getting with Jordan Poole. He's hit or miss. if you want to get in a scoring game with the Kings, I think this year they got enough to bring it home if they do.
Well, that's why I say, Kenny, that the Kings have more offensive depth than the Golden State Warriors do. The Warriors have big names, right? They have championship rings, championship pedigree, right? But the Sacramento Kings consistently this season have won games with 6 or 7 guys in double figures. The Sacramento Kings have been able to put up 120-something points per game in games where they've made 5 threes or less than 10 threes. The Sacramento Kings have been able to surpass 130 or certainly surpass 120 without a single guy scoring 20 or more. Like, this Kings team is loaded with players that can beat you, which has got to be exhausting to game plan for. Like, to me, it's pretty simple. If the Kings can't rely on De'Aaron Fox going for 40, and they're probably going to need to at some point in this series. The Kings needed Fox and Monk to each put up 40 to win in Los Angeles. Maybe you need Sabonis to score 30, but there are going to be games that the Sacramento Kings can win with Fox and Sabonis barely creeping over 20, but also Harrison Barnes is in the 20s and Keegan Murray's in the 20s. The Kings have had so many games this season where they've had 3 or more guys finishing in 20-point scoring. That's because they share the basketball. They're one of the best teams in the league in passing the basketball and moving the basketball, plus their off-ball movement. Everybody talks about who the hell is going to chase Steph Curry. That's going to be exhausting. Who the hell is Steph Curry going to chase? Like, we got to start talking about this on both sides of the floor. Sure, the Warriors do it at championship level because we've seen it before, but the Golden State Warriors are going to have to do the same thing that they do to everybody else. Are they able to put that up? Why are we asking the question, is De'Aaron Fox able to be an offensive, as capable as he is on the offensive end if he's chasing Steph Curry around the floor? But we're not turning that question around and going, is Klay Thompson or whoever who's chasing De'Aaron or who's chasing Kevin Huerter, if they're going to be able to do the same thing? Like, both these teams are so evenly matched up in the ways that they play. I expect guys to be gassed by the end of games in this series. I think the NBA is doing them a favor by giving them multiple days off in between games 3 and 4 and multiple days off in between games 2 and 3. Like, the NBA, I think, knows what they're in for in this series with how aggressive and how much energy is going to be exerted. So I agree with you 100%, Kenny. Like, this team has so much offensive depth and there's so many guys that you have to stop. If the Kings can contain the Warriors role players. What I mean by that is Steph's going to get his, right? Clay's going to have a pop-off night. Maybe Poole is going to have a pop-off night. You want to avoid a night where all of them are going, but you can't also get beat by Kuminga, and you can't get beat by Moody and Dante DiVincenzo. Those guys add 15, 16 points each. The Kings are getting beat at their own game, and that's impossible to stop. But you limit those guys, let Curry get his 30, 35, you have a chance to win that game because you're putting up 120 a night.
Make sure you check out Matt's Locked On Kings podcast. I'm sure it's part of everybody's rotation by now. If it's not, make sure you add it. It's tremendous content. I hate to say goodbye. We normally get to spend so much time together. I know you got work to do, and we appreciate you racing to the ABC 10 studios to come hang out with us a little bit.
Batty Thursday, and you're replacing me with a different Matt. Okay, you played NBA. Okay,
well, we didn't replace you. You're here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm the opening act for a better NBA career.
Well, normally you're the closer, but you're now all of a sudden you're a TV star.
You're the first day of WrestleMania.
No, that's all right. No, don't worry about it. I'm the opening match. I'm like John Cena now. I'm just going to put my belt up to give other people like small time Matt Barnes a chance, I guess. No, that's
John
cool.
Cena and Austin Theory.
Yeah.
Let's not forget how great night 1 of WrestleMania was, though.
That was great.
I
didn't have my boy LA Knight out there. What's his name? LA Ryder.
Yeah, like Bray Wyatt's like dead or something. Like, I haven't seen Bray Wyatt in a long time.
Is there anything in the world that maybe it's like at this point, Kenny Caraway calling somebody their boy is like Monopoly money? There's no value to that, right? Can I say that? Kenny Caraway's got so many boys. You're like cheaper by the dozen.
I mean, Matt's probably right with that.
I mean, it's like
my
main man.
My main man.
My main man.
Yes, indeed.
I learned it from the great Ahmad Rashad.
Matt George.
Matt George, you're my boy, though. For real.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, yeah, Matt feels great about that.
I'm like number 187 on the power rankings, but I'm happy to be there.
Hey,
we're just happy to be here.
They say this is a big rich town.
All right, Matt George, Locked On Kings, ABC 10. We appreciate you as always.